choice. I let you push me past the breaking point. I stayed for nothing, so I fell for everything. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Super excited. We're going to get started in a little bit. Hopefully everybody is joining us. We look forward to getting started in our new conversation today. So I look forward. I got the eye of the tiger. I love this song, y'all. It's beautiful. Very motivational. All right, so let's get started. So today, again, my name is Sherry Dosler. I am the CEO of Sherry Dosler Enterprises, and also a minister at Faith Above Ministries. I just want to welcome you in this morning to have this wonderful conversation. Feel free to comment. Definitely, if you like what you see, share, and subscribe. So today I want to talk about self-leadership. So that's going to be our conversation today, because it's very important that we understand what that is, and we understand prior to leading other people, we need to lead ourselves. Leading ourselves come first. So that's our conversation today. So what is self-leadership? Self-leadership pretty much is you leading yourself, right? Another definition for self-leadership is leading yourself first before leading others. The practice of intentionally influencing yourself towards your desired goals. So a lot of times I hear people say, I want to be a leader. I want to lead in this capacity. I want to lead in that capacity. But prior to leading people, it requires that you know how to lead yourself. And so leading yourself is very, very important, because by leading yourself, you're able to attain your desired goals. You're able to attain not only your desires, but your goals. You're able to check in with yourself and understand where you are, understand where you've been, and understand where you want to go. And it embodies or encapsulates three things, which is really self-awareness, self-reflection, and self-regulation, which we'll talk about very soon. But if you have a passion for leading, and you have a passion to start your own business, you have a passion, because starting your own business is really being a leader, leading others, or leading in the capacity of an organization, or in the capacity of a non-for-profit or a church, whatever it is, whatever sphere of influence that you have, it requires that you master the concept of leadership, which really is influencing others, but it starts with self-influence. It starts with self-leadership, right? So that's why this conversation is so important. The first thing that is needed when you are developing yourself, right, is self-awareness. I have met so many people who lead, right, but are not aware of what the atmosphere is in their organization, not aware of the climate, the culture of their organization, employees to CEOs, to mid-level, entry level, all type of levels, but don't have that awareness as to, okay, what is happening in this organization? What are the values of this organization? What are the trends in this organization? And prior to being able to discern that within an organization, what their core beliefs are, what their values are, and what they practice, what is written on paper and what is really practiced behind closed doors. Because you can start a brand new job and the website looks amazing, all right? You have a perceived idea as to, oh, this is what this organization culture is going to be like. It's really when you're there, right? The first 30 days and in observing, you then see, wow, the culture of the organization is very different from what I saw on the website or their Facebook page or their LinkedIn page. So having that discernment is really called awareness, to be able to be aware as to what is really happening within an organization. What is my leader's style of leading, right? My leader's leadership style, management style, right? And being able to discern what the expectations are quickly. And the next step would be to create a strategy or a process to accomplish desired results. So that starts with awareness. And prior to being aware of what others do and where they are, it starts with yourself. You need to have self-awareness. Be aware of, well, what are your desires? What do you desire? What are your values? What is your culture, right? When you walk in the room, what atmosphere do you bring, right? Because your presence can change the atmosphere of an environment. So, and it's all about your core beliefs, right? So self-awareness is the first step in understanding, right, what your desire is, what your belief systems are, what are your culture. Awareness also requires you to understand your weakness. What weaknesses do you have? What strengths do you have? What can you do? What are your giftings? Where are you gifted at? What are your skills? And there are some strategies as to how to develop your self-awareness. I like to spend time every day asking people feedback. I'll ask my supervisor their feedback. I'll ask my children their feedback. I'll ask anyone that I come across what their feedback is. And what I'm looking for is constructive criticism as to what's working, what's not working, what can I do better, what needs to be changed, what needs to be implemented. So part of that is really ask for feedback. Getting feedback, constructive criticism is a gift from God. It really is a gift. And when you're able to receive feedback, you're able to assess it and know what applies for you and what doesn't. It really is a way of growing. It helps you grow. Another strategy that I want to share with you that I use is called the character trait check. And this is a great strategy. What is a character trait check? What that is I want you to think about leaders that you have come across in your life, right? And tell me, what are the worst leaders you've ever had? What are the worst leaders? It could be at the job, it could be at the church, it could be at the community, it could be anywhere. What is it that you think is so bad about this leader or what this leader does? Right? What are those traits that are horrible about that leader? So that's question number one when you're doing this assessment. What did he or she do for you to consider them as a horrible leader, right? So you can write that out. And then part number three is score. Score it 1 to 5, right? Write out 1 to 5, from 1 to 5, why you consider this person a horrible leader. 5 being the worst, right? And then the last question you're going to look at is, well, what have I done that is similar to this horrible leader? Because oftentimes when we point our fingers to others, it's a reflection of us, what's going on inside. Oftentimes when we see a problem area about a specific thing or emphasis, not all the time, but sometimes, it also is a reflection as to what's going on inside and what we see and what we are aware of and what captures our attention. So you can ask yourself, well, how am I doing on that particular area that I think that leader is doing horribly? And begin to rate yourself. Scale yourself. A perfect example will be, well, one of the worst leaders that I've met is really, this person is horrible because, is a horrible leader because she's poor at planning, right? She doesn't have he or she doesn't have the best planning strategy. Now, I've identified who this person is. I've identified what that person does that I think is horrible. And number three, I'm going to scale it. On a scale of 1 to 5, her planning skills are horrible at the level 4 or 5, right? And the next thing I'm going to do is assess myself. Well, I'm going to ask myself, well, Sherry, how are you doing in terms of planning? What are your planning strategies? How do you measure up and rate yourself? All right. So when we begin to do this, this helps us to have compassion. It helps us as leaders to have empathy and begin to see things from a different perspective. And it helped us to be aware, right, of where we are as well. And that helps us to be better leaders. So the first point that everyone needs when it comes to leading yourself is, number one, is self-awareness. Become aware of what are your desires. Do you know that there are people walking around, they don't know what their desires are? They don't know what they want to do with their lives. They don't know what's the next step, what's the next strategy. It's very cloudy. It's very hard to discern, right? And sometimes that happens because we're so busy with life. We're so busy going to work Monday through Friday, whatever it is. We're busy taking care of the children, taking care of our husbands, or whatever the case may be. Just busy, 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 but never having time for yourself. So self-leadership means that you lead yourself first. You lead yourself first prior to leading others, right? Lead yourself first. And that starts with self-awareness. Know what your desires are. What do you want? What do you want out of your life? What do you want out of every situation, right? What are the desires? There are several desires: desire for recognition, desire for power, desire for love, desire, all kinds of desires. So that you need to know, have self-awareness. Part number two, the other part of self-leadership that's very important is self-reflection. Self-awareness and self-reflection kind of sounds alike, but they're very different. Self-reflection is allowing yourself time, or taking the time, and you have to be very intentional in leading yourself, right? Is allowing yourself the time, or making the time, to really reflect on yourself, right? I take a couple of minutes every day just asking myself, what are some challenges that I'm experiencing throughout the day? How am I faring in my leadership? Am I being attentive? Did I reach the goals that I met, right? I'm reflecting on what needs to change. How can I better myself? How can I better this situation? How can I better lead, right? So self-reflection is very important, because when we're able to reflect on ourselves, it really gives us a mental downtime to really assess and see what's going on around us, what's going on internally, right? Do a personal inventory as to how you're feeling, what is going on. So I love to write. I keep a journal. I've been journaling since I was 9 years old. I have many journals. Some I've lost, but some are here. And I reflect. And in the journal, I'm writing how my day went. I'm writing what went well. I'm writing what didn't, what needs to change. And it doesn't happen every day, but some days I get to write. And so self-reflection is important. And I would advise you to take a couple of minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour. Some people feel they don't have an hour to spare. Remember, God gave you 24 hours a day. So out of 24, take one for yourself, right? And this can be over a meal. It can be over lunchtime, where you walk away from everything. I encourage people to leave the office when you can and get away from that scene of work, and give yourself time, because you deserve it, and you need time to yourself. So self-reflection is very important. The next thing that I would say point number 3 is self-regulation, or another word is self-discipline. It's very important when leading yourself. There's a famous quote that says, a vision without discipline is like a bird without wings. That famous quoter is me, Sherry, right? And so what that means is, if you have a vision, but you don't have consistency and you're not intentional about that vision is not going to fly, right? It's going to be flat. It's not going to go anywhere. So self-discipline is so important, or regulation is so important when you are leading yourself. And one of the tools that I want to give you as a leader, when you're regulating yourself specifically, because discipline and regulation can have different meanings depending on the context. The tool I want to give you is called reframing. It's important as a leader that you know how to refrain with an N from situations and from things that come your way. What that means is you take a step back, right? And you reflect, you analyze, and you observe, right? And this is important because when you have that urge to react, sometimes it requires you to take a step back for you to do analysis, for you to assess, for you to really gather your information and relax if needed, so that you could come up with a strategy to take on that particular situation or subject. A tool or strategy that I can give for reframing is really is using another scale. And you can do a scale 1 to 10, asking yourself, well, how important is this subject? From 1 to 10, how important is it? Does it require my immediate attention? Does it require my immediate assistance, right? So if the number is really close to 10, then you know you have to engage immediately. You have to engage right away, right? But if it's not close to 10, then you know you can reframe, you can reschedule it, compartmentalize it, and deal with it at another time. So this information, self-discipline, or I would say the whole subject, self-leadership, is so important because I've learned that, you know, you can't lead others if you can't lead yourself, okay? It's important that you understand that leadership, the definition of leadership, is influencing others. How do you influence others if you can't influence yourself? Influencing yourself means influencing your thoughts, influencing your emotions, your actions, influencing everything that you do. So influencing is a skill that I believe that leaders need to develop. We all need to develop this skill. And it starts with influencing ourselves. We cannot lead anyone if we cannot lead ourselves, right? So the other thing I want to say is self-leadership is really developing yourself every day. It's a daily task, right? That needs to happen. And it's crucial that as a leader, you grow every day. The same expectations that we have of those that we lead, we should have them for ourselves. And it requires that we create a model, that we are a model. We create a template, right? And by doing that, we can turnkey it, we can replicate it, we can duplicate it, however you want to say, so that we are growing every day. Right. As you can see, I have books behind me. I wish I had more books. I want more books because part of growing every day is reading. Are you growing every day? Acquiring new information. You know, one of the habits of very successful people are people who read. So if you're interested, you could always go to my website, sherrydolzler.com. I have a list of books that you can read about leadership, about entrepreneurship, about finances, and more, I want to encourage you to read, acquire information. And you can ask yourself in your reflection time, right? Every day, well, what did I learn from what I read? Whether it's online, whether it's a book, whatever it is. What is it that I've learned today? What is it that I've acquired today, right? So acquiring information every day and being very intentional and strategic about it is very important. What kind of information do you want to acquire? What area of your life do you want to work on? What skill do you want to acquire, right? So intentionality is very important in self-development, self-leadership. All right. And you can decide to lead yourself in any area of interest, right? There's a principle that says, there's a principle, it's called the 80-20 principle. And the 80-20 principle says that vast of us, or most of us, learn by doing versus hearing. So it's not just hearing or just what we say, but we learn through actual doing, actual engagement, by engaging, right? And so using that principle, I want you, and I want to encourage you today to get engaged every day. Engage with yourself prior to engaging with others. Lead yourself prior to leading others. And the takeaway from this lesson is, I want to ask you, what is it that you want to do for yourself? Because often we do a lot of things for other people, right? Before doing for ourselves. But the principle is, develop yourself first before you develop others. Lead yourself first before you lead others. When you're able to lead yourself, then lead your family, your community. Then you can think about leading the world, if that's what God called you to do. But it really starts with self-leadership. So I want to encourage you today, not only as a businesswoman, an entrepreneur myself, or a minister, but I want to encourage you that you start leading yourself every day. And I start very early in the morning. My leadership with myself start early in the morning. And that can mean in the morning you're praying, you're meditating. That can mean that you're journalizing, you're setting your goals in the morning. What do you want to see accomplished today? What do you want to see happen today? What are the desired results for that day, right? I always like to start at the end and then go back to the beginning. So every Saturday, I spend time during brunch. I write what I want to learn for myself for the entire week. When I'm done doing that, then I break it down daily. I prep all the videos, all the TED Talks, all the readings. I prep it every Saturday, all my devotions for the week. And I prep it that Saturday and I break it down daily as to what I'm learning, right? Strategize, be intentional. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed yourself in this conversation about self-leadership. If you like what you see, and I'm sure you do, definitely like, share, and subscribe. And again, feedback is a gift. Please provide feedback in the comment below. I would love to hear what you're thinking and what you would love to learn. Share with me, and I would be more than happy to research and share with you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Have a wonderful day. God bless.